"Me and Lenny's rolling up a steak," said George. "I might go in and set and have a shot, but I ain't putting out no 2.5." "Well, a guy got to have some fun sometimes," said Whit. The door opened and Lenny and Carlson came in together. Lenny crept into his bunk and sat down, trying not to attract attention. Carlson reached into his bunk and brought out his bag. He didn't look at old Candy, who still faced the wall. Carlson found a little cleaning rod in the bag and a can of oil. He laid them on his bed and then brought out the pistol, took out the magazine and snapped the loaded shell from the chamber. Then he fell to cleaning the barrel with a little rod. When the ejector snapped, Candy turned over and looked for a moment at the gun before he turned back to the wall again. Carlson said casually, "Curly been in yet?" "No," said Whit. "What's eating on Curly?" Carlson squinted down the barrel of the gun, looking for his old lady. "I seen him going around and around outside," Whit said sarcastically. "He spends half his time looking for her, and the rest of the time she's looking for him." Curly burst into the room excitedly. "Any of you guys seen my wife?" he demanded. "She ain't been here," said Whit. Curly looked threateningly around the room. "Where the hell's Slim?" "Went out in the barn," said George. "He was gonna put some tar on the split hoof." Curly's shoulder dropped and squared. How long ago he'd go? 5, 10 minutes. Curly jumped out of the door and banged it after him. Whit stood up. "I guess maybe I'd like to see this," he said. "Curly's just spoiling or he wasn't start for Slim. And Curly's handy, goddamn handy. Got in the finals for the Golden Gloves. He got newspaper clippings about it. He considered, but just the same, he better leave Slim alone. Nobody don't know what Slim can do." Thanks, Slim." "Oh, thinks Slim's with his wife, don't he?" said George. "Looks like it," Whit said. "Course Slim ain't. Least I don't think Slim is, but I like to see the fuss if it comes off. Come on, let's go." George said, "I'm staying right here. I don't want to get mixed up in nothing. Lenny and me got to make a steak." Carlson finished the cleaning of the gun and put it in the bag and pushed the bag under his bunk. "I guess I'll go out and look for her." "Oh, look her over," he said. Old Candy lay still, and Lenny, from his bunk, watched George cautiously. When Whit and Carlson were gone and the door closed after them, George turned to Lenny. "What you got on your mind?" "I ain't done nothing, George. Slim says I better not pet them pups so much for a while. Slim says it ain't good for them, so I come right in. I been good, George." "I could have told you that," said George. Well, I wasn't hurting 'em none. I just had mine in my lap petting it." George asked, "Did you see Slim out in the barn?" "Sure I did. He told me I better not pet that pup no more." "Did you see that girl?" "You mean Curly's girl?" "Yeah. Did she come in the barn?" "No. Anyways, I never seen her." "You never seen Slim talking to her?" She ain't been in the barn." "Okay," said George. "I guess them guys ain't gonna see no fight if there ain't any fighting. Lenny, you keep out of it." "I don't want to fight. I don't want no fight," said Lenny. He got up from his bunk and sat down at the table across from George. Almost automatically, George shuffled the cards and laid out his solitaire hand. He used a deliberate, thoughtful slowness. Lenny reached for a face card and studied it, then turned it upside down and studied it. "Both ends the same," he said. "George, why is it both ends the same?" "I don't know," said George. "That's just the way they make 'em. What was Slim doing in the barn when you seen him?" "Slim?" "Sure. You seen him in the barn, and he told you not to pet the pups so much." "Oh, yeah. He had a can of tar and paintbrush. I don't know what for." "You sure that girl didn't come in just in like that today?" No, she never came. She never come. George sighed. You give me a good whorehouse every time, he said. A guy can go in and get drunk and get everything out of his system all at once, and no messes. And he knows how much it's gonna set him back. These here jail baits is just on the trigger of the hoosgow. Lenny followed his words admiringly and moved his lips a little to keep up. George continued, You remember Andy Cushman, Lenny? Went to grammar school? The one that his old lady used to make hot cakes for the kids? Lenny asked. Yeah, that's the one. You can remember anything if there's anything to eat in it. George looked carefully at the solitaire hand. He put an ace up his scoring rack and piled the 2, 3, and a 4 of diamonds on it. Andy's in San Quentin right now on account of a tart, said George. Lenny drummed on the table with his fingers. George? Huh? George, how long is it gonna be till we get that little place on the fat of the land and rabbits? I don't know, said George. We gotta get a big steak together. I know a little place we can get cheap, but they ain't giving it away. Old Candy turned slowly over. His eyes were wide open. He watched George carefully. Lenny said, Tell about that place, George. I just told you. Just last night. Go on, tell again, George. Well, it's 10 acres, said George. Got a little windmill. Got a little shack on it. A chicken run. Got a chicken orchard. Cherries, apples, peaches, cots, nuts. Got a few berries. There is a place for alfalfa and plenty water to flood it. There's a pig pen and rabbits, George? No place for rabbits now, but I could easily build a few hutches and you could feed alfalfa to the rabbits. Damn right I could, said Lenny. You goddamn right I could. George's hands stopped working with the cards. His voice was growing warmer. And we could have a few pigs. I could build a smokehouse like the one Grandpa had, and we could kill a pig. We can smoke the bacon and the hams and make sausage and all that and like that. And when the salmon runs up river, we could catch 100 of them and salt them down or smoke them. We could have them for breakfast. They ain't nothing so nice as smoked salmon. When the fruit come in, we could can it. And tomatoes, they're easy to can. Every Sunday we'd kill a chicken or rabbit. Maybe we could have cow or a goat. And the cream is so good, goddamn thick, got to cut it with a knife and take it out with a spoon. Lenny watched him with wide eyes, and Old Candy watched him too. Lenny said softly, We could live off the fat of the land. Sure, said George. All kinds of vegetables in the garden, and if we want a little whiskey, we can sell a few eggs or something, or some milk. We just live there. We'd belong there. There wouldn't be no more running around the country and getting fed by Jap Cook. No, sure, we'd have our own place, and we'd belong and not sleep in no bunkhouse. Tell about the house, George, Lenny begged. Sure. We'd have a little house and a room to ourselves. Oof, okay. Oh, that's good, I guess. Little fat iron stove, and in the winter we'd keep a fire going in it. It ain't enough land, so we'd have to work too hard. So we'd have to work hard. Maybe 6-7 hours a day. We wouldn't have to buck no barley 11 hours a day, and when we put in a crop, why, we'd be there to take the crop up. We'd know what come of our planting. And rabbits? Lenny said eagerly. And I'd take care of them. Tell how I'd do that, George. Sure. You'd go out in the alfalfa patch and you'd have a sack. You'd fill it up the sack and bring it in and put in the rabbit cages. They'd nibble and they'd nibble, said Lenny. The way they do, I seen 'em ever 6 weeks or so, George continued. Them does would throw a little so we'd have plenty rabbits to eat and to sell, and we'd keep a few pigeons to go flying around the windmill like they'd done when I was a kid. He looked raptly at the wall over Lenny's head. And it'd be our own, and nobody could can us. If we don't like a guy, we can say, get the hell out, and by God, he's got to do it. And if a friend come along, why, we'd have an extra bunk, and we'd say, why don't you spend the night? And by God, he would. We'd have a setter dog and a couple striped cats, but you gotta watch out for them cats. Don't get the little rabbits. True. Lenny breathed hard. You just let 'em try to get the rabbits. I'll break their goddamn necks. I'll smash 'em with a stick. He subsided, grumbling to himself, threatening the future cats, which might dare disturb the future rabbits. George sat entrenched with his own picture. When Candy spoke, they jumped as though they had been caught doing something reprehensible. Candy said, you know, there's a place like that. George was on guard immediately. Suppose I do, he said. What's that to you?